We might kick off. Guys, welcome to this morning's investor briefing. Really excited to launch T92 that's being admitted to the Australian Stock Exchange tomorrow at 11 a.m. Melbourne, Sydney time. We've got with us Mike Mclelland, Daryl Clark, Andrew Vigar, and Troy Boijoli from T92. And Kylie's just joined. Uranium since our roadshow, Andrew, we're up probably about 15 or 20%. Couldn't be the perfect storm. We're listing at a 2.3 million enterprise value, 3 assets that we own 100% of in the Athabasca, which is the highest grade deposits and the largest in the world. Great structure, just raised $7.5 million. So with that introduction, really excited to launch the IPO briefing and welcome everyone. And Andrew, I might get you to share screen and introduce the team.
Yeah, thanks very much, Nev. And as you already mentioned, we have Mike Mclelland, who's our President Canada and looks after the operations based in Saskatoon, along with Troy and Kylie and Daryl. Daryl's also in Canada, and so is Troy. Kylie's based in Bundaberg, where all amazing things come from Bundaberg. Now, if this technology behaves itself, we'll be able to do a share screen, and I'll do a little prezzo, which I will run through. I'll talk to some of it, and Mike will talk to some of the more technical sessions. So is that coming through okay? Yep, great. Okay, guys. Get on the right screen. Great. That's a disclaimer. Now that everybody's read it, we can move on to the presentation. This is a little snapshot of our company. We are due to list tomorrow, having raised 7.5 million from our investors. Thank you to everybody for doing that. We'll be listing at around about 11 o'clock Perth time, which is, 11 o'clock Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney time, 9 a.m. Perth time tomorrow. So tomorrow we're out of the gates and ready to go. We've got 100% wholly owned projects in the Eastern Athabasca focused on the Cable Bay Shear Zone. An excellent board, some of whom are online today, and we'll have a bit of a chat, and there might be a few questions afterwards as well. Very experienced. We've been with the likes of Cameco, NextGen, Alligator. Alligator was the last company that I was involved in listing, which was 11 years ago. We are already working. So Mike and his crew have commenced work in the field. We've got a couple of slides on that. First visits to some of the outcrops, and airborne geophysics being flown probably week after next. Depends on when they can actually get in the air. The contract's been now signed. And then we're looking to drill in the northern winter. We'll come back to this diagram. It's quite an important one because it does give a snapshot of where we sit and that we are very close to some of the major past discoveries in the Athabasca Basin, and more importantly, operational bases in mills where we can actually treat the material that we find. Our board, myself, Daryl Clark, who's on today, Troy, who's on today, Doug's busy. He's a contractor as well. He told me he's working till late tonight on something else. And Kylie, I think, is on today as well.
Can we just make an introduction then? Maybe, Andrew, what we do is just go back to the slides. I think that's really important to highlight. We've got an exceptional team, exceptional board. So on that, Daryl, I might give you the microphone to introduce yourself, then Troy, and then Mike. I think that's really important just to give everyone perspective on the team, because we've got a formidable team for such a small cap company, which you don't see much in microcap land here on the ASX. So Daryl, over to you.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Nev, and good afternoon, good morning to everybody on the call. My name's Daryl Clark. I'm a geologist. I've been in the mining industry now for over 30 years. A considerable amount of time focused in uranium exploration. Currently, I'm working in the energy sector for Suncor, basically out of Calgary in Alberta, just getting some broader mining experience there. Previous to this, I was working with Cameco, firstly as a vice president of exploration, leading their global uranium exploration footprint. And, did that for a number of years, based out of Saskatoon. Mike and I and Troy and Doug actually all worked together at that phase. And subsequently to that, I headed over to Kazakhstan, where I headed up the Inkai joint venture uranium mine, which is one of the largest, lowest cost uranium in situ leach production mines in the globe. There, I did that for a number of years in Kazakhstan, and then headed on to do some other things. So So geologist, like discovery, spent most of my career in discovery teams. I take it from first principles, from science, apply best techniques in there, and love building teams of quality people, putting them together and getting them pointed in the right direction. This opportunity here really excites me. Very, very happy to be working with these guys again. Andrew and I have worked previously together as well throughout most of my career. In fact, one of the very first job interviews I had, I showed up late to with Mr. Andrew Vigar there when we were working at SAK. That was years ago. All right, so that's a little introduction on myself there. Thank you.
Over to you, Troy.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm a geologist as well. Technically focused board here. Geologist as well. I've spent the majority of my career exploring, producing, and developing projects in the Athabasca Basin. As Daryl noted, similar roots through Cameco Corporation, where I explored on numerous projects across the basin and into Northern Australia. From there, I moved over into operations, and I was a chief geologist at Eagle Point Mine, which was at the time one of Cameco's 3 operating uranium mines, and then subsequently transitioned over to a company that most would be familiar with, and that's Next Gen Energy, and led the development of the Rook I project, right from resource development phases into various study phases, engineering, also through the regulatory phases, up into the point where I transitioned over to the company now that I lead, called Murchison Minerals, and that was last year. And so explorationists, operations, production, right through to geostatistical resource estimation and project development. I'm highly engaged with the team that we have here at a board level, at a management level, and the opportunity that's in front of us working in the Cable Bay, which is the most underexplored deep-seated structural corridor in the Athabasca Basin, has me really excited.
And I might just mention Doug, who couldn't be on today. So he's very busy. He runs Axiom, which is one of the largest consulting and contracting groups for geological services in the Athabasca. He obviously has a lot of experience, not only in the Athabasca, but North America and Africa as well. He was recently in Papua New Guinea. He's a terrific guy. He has access to a lot of people and infrastructure that we might need as we go forward, as well as his technical expertise. And it's great to have Doug on board. It is extremely hard to get people and drill rigs and equipment at the moment in the Athabasca. It's a very hot area. So it's a huge advantage having Doug involved in the company. Kylie, are you on the line?
Yes. So my name's Kylie Prendergast. I am a geologist as well. I have a lot of international experience, having worked in Indonesia, Mongolia, and the Middle East. And then the last sort of 10 years, I've been running a mining consultancy business in Australia. We have a lot of international public and private and also local clients in that group. And I've branched out since then, and now I'm basically an independent consultant and company director. I have very much enjoyed getting to know Mike and understanding the T92 projects. I am at heart an explorer, and I can see very clearly what the target is and what T92 is trying to achieve here. So I'm really looking forward to Mike getting started.
Well said. And Mike, over to you.
I think you're on mute, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mclelland. I'm a global explorer. I've been involved in juniors, majors, mid-tiers, and pretty much every commodity around the globe. Yeah, I'm very excited about this opportunity. And, as Troy said, this is a really underexplored area that we are looking at, and how do we really, change incremental changes into transformational. And I think that this is probably one of the premier areas that we can do that. And I'm looking forward to my team supporting this and going forward. This is a great team. Work with a lot of them for a lot of time, and it's really about working with people that you want to rather than you have to, and like-minded individuals. Thank you.
And Mike, you might just mention a little about Jennifer as well, because she's, I think, in Finland or somewhere at the moment, isn't she?
Yeah, Jennifer's in Greenland right now doing a drill program. Jennifer has been, again, a global explorer for her whole career, multi-commodities. She was one of the founding explorers for the Diavik diamond mine, which has probably a net value in $5 to $6 billion range. And she took that through to production, and then she left and went into the junior market and has been since exploring for gold, base metals, and now she looks forward to learning more about uranium.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things there, Mike, is that Jennifer's used to working in these cold Arctic conditions, and for some reason seems to enjoy it.
Yes, she does. She likes to be challenged by helicopter pilots and drillers.
So we've got a team who can deliver on the ground. Also on that slide we have up there at the moment, Nova Taylor and Vesna, who are company secretary and CFO based here in Australia. Basically, those two ladies, along with myself, make sure that the company operates efficiently, lowest cost possible, and with the highest ethics we can possibly manage. A little bit on global uranium, just for those who want a bit of background. This is going back to the 1940s. This is quite a nice little chart from the Nuclear Energy Agency. So time scale across the bottom, and total production as it balloons out. And you can see leading up to the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 1990s, most production was coming from the USSR and the US, and then a little bit down the bottom here from Canada. And then after the collapse of the USSR, Kazakhstan comes in strongly. And really for the last 10 years or so, it's been dominated by Kazakhstan, Canada and Australia. And we all know with the war in Europe, that's having a serious impact on Kazakhstan's ability to export, not to produce, they're not sanctioned, but to actually get export out of the country is difficult. And we believe that Canada is going to be a key source, particularly with the changes now in the US, with the US Congress now looking to secure production from North America, and they have very limited resources of their own, and they do consider Canada as part of North America, which is very good for us.
Troy and Mike, just sorry to interrupt. I mean, just generally for those, I mean, everyone's hearing about here down under uranium prices, as I said, since we've last been on the road, up about 15-20%. What are you guys seeing on the ground in Athabasca? Daryl, Troy, Mike, if you guys want to jump in.
I can comment that the activity is brisk. People are spending a lot of money in the Athabasca. Some places where you wouldn't see hardly any helicopters, there's 4 or 5 of them, people drilling. There's a lot of activity. So there's certainly a market hype. Troy?
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that, Mike, that there's certainly a lot of excitement, and Andrew, for the reasons that you noted, right? Thinking about the market primarily, in the context of the North American market, the US being the biggest user of uranium globally, the context from a policy perspective of considering, uranium as a North American product as opposed to a domestic product, and then you look at the projects that are in development. You look at the supply demand fundamentals, and there needs to be more discoveries. There needs to be more discoveries to meet that long-term demand, right?
Yeah, I'd even go further, guys, and say, you know, we've had a significant period of depressed uranium prices, okay, and that has stopped people from investing in the uranium space. So with the demand, you know, the demand increasing here and the supply destruction that we've seen over the last 2 decades, you know, we're sitting on the edge of a continued boom. This isn't just something that's sort of, you know, flash in the pan. You've seen some structural change. You know, to go further on Kazakhstan, it's not just that they can't get the uranium out of the country easily. Most of their infrastructure is built with Russian drilling equipment, Russian rigs. That whole supply chain of well-filled construction into Kazakhstan has been interrupted. And so previously they were able to respond within 6 to 18 months to an increase in price and push it back into the market. They're not able to do that. That's not going to change quickly. So, you know, we're seeing, you know, supply destruction, supply chain destruction, and we're also seeing this sustained price increase. Now, if you were to look at investment history, sort of success of exploration, Athabasca is your best bang for your buck. You know, a lot of big companies out there, Vale, BHP, companies that I'd worked for previously in a similar role as VP there, had looked at the globe in terms of where is the best place to invest in uranium, and they all come back to, you know, Athabasca. That's where it's at. Okay, it's a stable country. You have a, you know, Saskatoon's got a favorable mining law. You can get in there. So, hence, anybody that knows anything about exploring for uranium is climbing over broken glass on their hands and knees to get some access into the. Okay, so we've got a front row seat. We pulled together a team of people here that have got the right experience, the knowledge, and we've selected some key pieces of ground. And so, you know, we're feeling pretty good about ourselves now.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, Daryl, is that when you look at the deposits in the world that have the highest grades and the largest numbers of pounds, they all fall in that top right-hand corner of that chart. They're all sitting in the Athabasca. I mean, there's really nothing else in the world anywhere that comes up with those sorts of grades, and it's the high grade as well as the total number of pounds. And when,
well,
certainly
Andrew, on that, Andrew, just to give the listener just some context, I mean, how big is Olympic Dam and the grades that they've got relative to, call it, MacArthur and Cigar Lake? Just give us and sort of the targets that we're as T92 aiming for. Well, we're looking at what, 200, 300 million pounds at over 5%. What's BHP's uranium grade?
200 ppm, is that right, Daryl? 300, something like that.
Yeah, no, on a good day they'll get up to 1,000, but yeah. Typically it's.
Yeah, it's around that sort of level. But and it is a major world producer, and it's the largest single producer in the world. But it's a byproduct from their copper mine. So the input, that was when we're looking at that previous slide on global production. Coming back to this one, the Australian production down the bottom there is largely Olympic Dam, but it's a byproduct, so they can't increase their production either. The same as you were saying earlier, Daryl, the Kazakhs can't increase it very much, nor can Australia, because it's a byproduct out of Olympic Dam. And you know, you can't double the size of that mine overnight. It's just too big.
So Andrew, do you want to maybe go through, some of the projects?
I was just going to quickly go through the other slides here. So this is just for those who aren't familiar with the types of deposits we're looking at. And as we mentioned earlier, MacArthur River and Cigar Lake are certainly our type examples. These are very large deposits that are sitting deep within the basin undercover. We're looking at the unconformity there, the overlying sandstones, and structures in the basement, and the mineralization is either sitting in the basement, such as the Arrow deposit, or it's sitting at the unconformity or immediately above it. And they're certainly the larger ones, and they're the ones that we're targeting. The larger the deposit, the larger the signature that you will see through the sandstone. The sandstone is a blocking cover unit, and that little graphic from Visual Capitalist at the top shows this sort of alteration halo that will emanate above the deposits. It's relatively weak, but it is there. The important thing, though, is the basement deposits, or the structures in the basement, and we can find those with geophysics. If the deposits are large enough, we will get some signal off the deposits themselves as well, but mostly it's the carbon in the basement, in the structures in the basement that we see with the geophysics. The next slide is also just emphasising that and this was a very interesting slide that we put together at Alligator years ago, and the axis along the bottom is time axis again, and what that's showing is that leading up to that collapse in around 1990, people were finding very large deposits in the Athabasca, but relatively deep. And that since that time, with low prices, only small deposits have been found until Arrow was discovered. And that Arrow is in the basement. It's not inside the basin itself. Although it's a very large deposit, it's not particularly high grade. It's around the around 2%, I think, Troy. Yeah, yeah. So we're looking at deposits more in the 5 to 10% range. That would be excellent. Got to find one yet, but that's what we're looking for. And this little picture on the right is quite a nice cross section from Jefferson, just showing Cigar Lake and showing that the mineralization is sitting above the basement in the sandstones immediately above it. That's the sort of thing we're looking for. A little bit of what Mike does, just to I guess emphasize to everybody that this is a structured process. We do go through a selection. We are very careful in selecting areas and identifying them and giving them a prospectivity analysis. And that's where we've selected the ground that we have now. Back to our main area. I guess a key criteria when we're selecting ground also is not just whether we can find something, but whether we can turn it into a deposit that's mineable. And very much that requires some sort of infrastructure, a uranium mill nearby. A uranium mill will take 5 to 10 years to permit, and it's really a very long process. So we prefer a deposit that can be processed through one of the existing mills if we can find it. I guess one of the other things that's happening now is the advent of in situ mining. We've spoke about ISR mining for the roll front type deposits in Kazakhstan and Australia, but now we're looking at solution mining for some of the deeper high grade deposits, and I guess this is being led by Denison. This is a major change in the way we might be able to mine deposits, and certainly makes a big impact when we're looking at slightly deeper deposits. It's no longer an issue with a depth. If you're solution mining, essentially using a drill holes and dissolving the minerals and extracting them at surface without anybody actually entering the deposit. Poor ground conditions, depth are not such an issue anymore. And this is going into production, as we speak.
Troy, maybe I'll just jump in here. Maybe just on this slide here, just for everyone that is watching, can you just explain sort of where MacArthur Cigar is sitting and why the Cable Bay Shear Zone is so exciting, the 3 projects that we've got? And maybe Daryl or Mike, do you want to jump in here as well?
Yeah, you bet. So, starting at the south there, where you see the little yellow mill icon, and this is kind of getting into the exploration and development history of the Athabasca Basin. You have the Key Lake Mill, which in the 70s. There was the Key Lake deposits were discovered, and then you follow that trend right through, and it goes right through MacArthur. You get Cigar Lake on that trend, and then you go up north, you got Rabbit Lake, McLean Lake, etc. Right, and that's a Wollaston Majatic lithostructural corridor. So that's a deep-seated structural corridor that has roots underneath the Athabasca Basin. Now, directly to the west is where we're at. That's a parallel deep-seated structural corridor, and that's a Cable Bay Shear Zone. You go further west of that, you have the Virgin River Shear Zone, and that's also a mineralized system. And then you go further west from that, and you have the Clearwater structural domain. And so the coincidence, the association between these deep-seated structural systems and uranium mineral endowment is clear within the Athabasca Basin. It just so happens that the Cable Bay Shear Zone that we're looking at there and where we're focused on is significantly underexplored. And it's really early days in the Cable Bay Shear Zone. And what we would look at is, advancing our projects to a point where we're able to unlock that mineral endowment and that mineral potential that is associated with that deep-seated structural system.
Yeah, if I can maybe help a little bit there, Troy and folks, some of you, on the ASX, so you're probably quite familiar with the evolution of the West Australian goldfields, and everything started out around Southern Cross and then moved to Kalgoorlie, and then people went north and south. And so think of those greenstone belt corridors that we were exploring in the West Australia as a similar thing. They all sit on very well structural corridors, and it's about maturity of exploration. So over in the east, where we have MacArthur and Cigar, those areas have been hit relentlessly every year for a significant amount of time, and they're quite mature, so they're very low residual exploration potential. So as you go further west, you're getting in belts that are very immature. There haven't been a lot of investment in there looking, and so that's why we particularly like where we are in the Cable Bay. It's it hasn't been hit hard at all. If in some areas we're the first, there's a little bit of data from historic workers that we've got in there that helped us key in. But if I can go from any commodity, if I'm first mover in a new terrain, typically they find the big deposits first. Okay, it's the same with porphyry coppers, same with epithermal belt gold. It's the same with West Australian gold. So again, first movers in a relatively new terrain with high residual exploration potential. That's the underline of our thesis there.
I think we've got excellent potential. Those little stars that are on our tenements are actual targets, so they're the areas that we're going to be flying very shortly. I'm just aware of the time.
Yeah, just conscious of time, so maybe an extra 10 minutes. We'll go through the projects, and then we've got a few questions that have popped up, so we'll try and answer.
Okay. So we've got three main projects. Hawk Brock is the shallowest. It hasn't been there's been very little drilling there, none on the main targets. We've got a dispersion train at surface. Not a lot of cover in this area, not a lot of cover in all our areas actually, which is excellent, but it hasn't been flowing for geophysics at all. So we'll be flying that within the next couple of weeks. And we have some outcropping samples there, which we're yet to repeat, but this is from old data. Showing that there's some quite anomalous results. These are not economic grades, but they are anomalous results in sandstone. I'll quickly go through Passfield. It was the first area that we selected. It's a very interesting area, very structurally complex, right in the middle of the Cable Bay. There's a lot going on there. That big bullseye area in the center there is a major uplift in the basement, the contours of the depths basement, and there's a lot happening in here. We have signs of uranium at surface. There's also signs of uranium in a couple of the old drill holes, and but probably more importantly, some nice VTEM anomalies. VTEM can only see down around about 400 meters. We're looking more at 700 to 900. The fact that we're getting any sort of response at all is very encouraging. So it would indicate there's some structures there sitting in the sandstones. This is the first area we'll be flying again.
One thing about this area, Andrew, that you should emphasize is that we're really looking for giant resources, and giant resources have giant signatures. We're not looking for micro signatures, and this uplift in the middle of our projects is something very special. The basement rocks have been pushed up 400 meters upwards. So that tectonically, there's something very important coming in around here, but also with the uranium endowment, like where is it coming from?
Yeah, I think, Mike, and on the roadshow, we advised that Tyler said that anomaly that you're testing with the Z10 in the next week or two, in terms of people want news flow, they're about to get some, I wrote it down, the best anomaly he has seen since MacArthur. Was that true, Andrew? Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, that's correct. It is geophysics, so we always caution everybody that it is geophysics. It's not directly measuring the deposit itself, but it is a very strong response, and it is old data. So we are repeating that. So we're reflying that in a couple of weeks' time. What's the latest, Mike, on when these guys are going to be flying?
It'll probably be like the next 3 to 4 weeks that will be on the ground. but in the next two to 3 days, we'll be doing an ambient noise tomography survey right on top of that and preparing it for winter drilling.
Yeah.
So that's a question.
Fantastic.
Some of the questions that I've received here, when will be some drilling, and we'll go through the news flow, maybe Andrew, after the, maybe the next 5 minutes of what investors can expect post, but there'll be lots.
Yeah, there will. We're working already. We're already on the ground. So I've got a couple of shots in a second, just that Michael talked to, of what we've actually been doing over the last couple of weeks. And our last target area is Parker Lake. Has a very strong but very high level megatem anomaly. Mike, did you want to talk to that?
Yeah, the megatem anomaly, it's more of a big blob. Like there is some subsurface alteration and conductance there. But I think the biggest thing is this large demagnetized zone that goes 30 kilometers. We're seeing uranium at both ends of it in surface expressions. And, you compare this to a lot of other places in the basin, it is very strong, this alteration in the basement rocks. We're dealing here with almost a kilometer of sandstone. You get an upward continuum of the response. Even if you look at 400 meters or 300 meters around Vigar or MacArthur, this is going to be a boomer of something that's happening with the demagnetization and fluid movement in this area that is not represented in this image.
Yeah, and we'll be flying that with geophysics within the next few weeks. It's just the guys are booked. It's just a matter of when they can mobilize. So Mike, you want to run us through there? We've got a couple of slides that people won't have seen before. So this is actually work that was done a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we went out and reproduced all of our surficial results. They were exactly what we expected them to be. You're dealing with 300, 400, 500, 1,000 meters of sandstone, and still getting upwards of, in this photo, 4 ppm of uranium, which is 4 times background. So where is this uranium coming from? So reproduced all the results, but really need to understand the context of where it's coming from. We've now secured a couple old camps that are in the basin, and we'll be remobilizing them over the next couple weeks to prepare for winter drilling, and that will save us hundreds of thousands of dollars. So a couple things. Yes, we reproduced all the uranium results that we were promoting previously. Still need to understand the context, a lot more geoscience into it, and we are ready to mobilize probably in the winter. Well, definitely in the winter time.
Yeah, for those guys who aren't familiar, that this is sort of subarctic here, so the drilling is done in the winter when the lakes freeze over, and because of the very low temperatures, you need a proper base to operate from. And for us to be able to actually operate within a few months of listing and actually have rigs in there, that's pretty phenomenal to be able to mobilize and do the work that quickly. But that's certainly our plan, that we'll be drilling in the winter. And this is just a quick overview of the areas that we're flying. Geotech are booked. They're very hard to get, but they're now booked. As soon as they can mobilize, they will. But we're expecting within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and that just shows you the flight lines. So we're flying all of our tenements with using ZTEM in the shallower Hawk Rock area and VTEM in the deep water.
The downfall of so many exploration companies is they repeat geophysical surveys because they don't do them at the proper line spacing or the proper system, and we're doing all that the first time so that we do not have to go back and do anything again. This is probably the best technology that we can get in this area that has been, I guess, getting better and better over the last 5 to 8 years.
And it goes down, Mike, over 1,000 meters. So can you maybe explain the difference between the traditional V10 or Aeromag to the Z10 and how important? And we're doing that all over the next few weeks and all on the ground, which is really exciting. So just to ensure that anomaly is there, and then we've got the drill targets ready for the upcoming winter, which is our summer here in Australia. But do you just want to explain, just for those that are listening, just how significant geotech's technology is and how important it is for Terra?
VTEM's a great system, and we're going to be flying that on a Hawk Rock, which is a little bit shallower. It goes to about 400, 450 meters of cover of sandstone. It's a perfect system for that, to understand alteration as well as basement rocks, the conductivity of those. And we'll be flying that at, I think, 300 meter line spacing, so nothing's going to slip through the cracks. When we start dealing with these, deeper structures, the 1,000 meters or the 900 meters, it really requires something different. It needs more of a passive system than an active system, rather than trying to push electricity into the ground. VTEM or ZTEM, I'm sorry, uses magnetic storms. It uses lightning strikes, these sort of things, to be able to understand the conductive corridors. And there is no system that can go that deep. And we're very confident that it'll really bring out these, I would say, super highways of fluids and conductivity that we'll be able to zero into. That one slide that Andrew showed, how we're progressing from hundreds of thousands of acres down to 50,000 square kilometers, these sort of things. That's where ZTEM is going to really help us get into these super highways of fluids and mineralization.
Yeah, so for those at home, guys, we are drilling these super highways and these targets in the next few months. We've got all the permitting, all the drilling, all the environmental approvals done, David. So everything's ready to go, which is really, really exciting. So, and just on that, just conscious of probably time, just capital structure, as I said, listing 2.3 million enterprise value. We're the cheapest out of all the listed ASX comps going around by a long mile. I mean, 92 Energies, to put things in perspective, are sitting now to over 50 million market cap or 55 million market cap. We're listing at a market cap of under 9. So look, all going really, really well there. So, and obviously really tight hands. We had Tribeca, we had the Lieberman family, we had TriStar, Altor, us. I mean, the capital structure is exceptionally tight, and we will be buying on market tomorrow. Andrew, just in terms of news flow, so do you just want to talk about the next step between now and just high level, and then I'll probably ask a few more questions that have popped up.
Yeah, sure. We've already been out there. You've seen some of the photographs of Mike. He's mobilised his team. We're looking at logistics and just checking some of those surface outcrops. We're then flying the geophysics. They're booked. It's a matter of it'll be within 2 to 3, 4 weeks time. Those results will come in. It's very data heavy stuff, so there's quite a bit of processing involved. We're using the A&T passive seismic as well to hopefully map the shape of the basement. It's a seismic system, not an electrical method. It's an Australian-based system, by the way, comes out of Adelaide. They were very keen to highlight their technology. It's been used very successfully recently in South Australia by Oz Minerals to find Olympic Dam style buried deposits. So we're looking at using those two together. So we use the old drilling plus the seismic to fine tune the ZTEM and combine them. It is data heavy, so there will be results coming out of that in October, November, December. So it won't happen in one shot. It'll be done piece by piece, and then those results will then be analysed, and we'll be targeting our drilling based on that. At the same time, Jennifer and Mike and the team will be getting the base ready for drilling in the winter. We'll do what we can now via helicopter. Helicopters are very expensive, so we'd rather just do it on the ground, and we'll be looking at drilling, doing deeper drilling in the winter. We may do some scout drilling if some of the targets look like they can be accessed at shallower depth, particularly Hawk Rock, where the depth of basement's only 250 to 400 meters. We may do some shallower drilling. Generally, our access is pretty good. As you saw in a couple of those photographs, we don't have a lot of glacial cover, except in Parker. Most of it is subcrop of sandstone, so it's quite a good area to drill in either in the summer or the winter. Once you make a discovery and are into a proper drill out program, you can drill year round, but we have to get there yet. We haven't made a discovery yet, but when we do, we'll be ready to go.
And then just on the discovery, right? The fact that we're going after these super highways, as Mike said, and we've got just one point that we haven't made in Hawk Rock, and I've written it down in my notes. We've got the second highest outcrop in all of Athabasca. Is that right? Do you just want to maybe elaborate on that? Because there's some misconception in terms of where, yes, we are early stage, obviously. We've got this huge target that we're going to drill this winter. But we've got, super highways. And that will really show up in that Z10. So just want to just elaborate on how excited about that.
Yeah, I think as Mike said earlier, that's really focusing on alteration. So we're getting samples of alteration. They are relatively low grade, but as Mike said earlier, the bigger the deposit, we're looking for giant deposits. The bigger the deposit, the bigger the signature. So even at those sorts of depths, we believe we'll see them at surface with samples in sandstone. So these are just sandstone. These are not samples of mineralization. This is just alteration in sandstone. The fact that we're getting several ppm in sandstones, and Mike has confirmed that on the ground, that is exceptional. These are just very boring looking sandstone rocks, yet they've got uranium in them. So it's leaking out from underneath. I'm just aware of time also. ESG is very important, and I want to emphasize this for our investors and everybody else. It was important to us at Alligator and the other companies we've dealt with. It's important to Terra Uranium as well. We deal very closely with the First Nations people. We are operating here, though, under the Canadian system, of course, under Treaty 10. It is different to the way we operate in Australia. So investors and people need to try and get their minds around that. It is a different system. It operates differently, but we are engaging from day one, and Mike has close relationships, and Troy and Daryl already, with a lot of these local Indigenous groups. We're dealing with English River First Nation and the Yathaninis. So it's important to us, and we do take it seriously. And that's pretty much it. A bit on the some of the majors. I expect to see us up on this list 2 to 3 years' time.
Well, just for everyone listening, if we do hit that target, right, Andrew, in coming winter, and there's some questions about the assays and the expected turnaround time. I mean, what are we expecting there? Is it a few months like in Australia, or?
I'd leave that to Mike, but of course we are in uranium, so you do get a result instantly. Okay. It's not often publishable, but unless you're using a PTFN or a high tech tool, but you do get a reading instantly, so you will know.
if we do hit that ore body, as you mentioned, that anomaly, which is the highest or the biggest that you've seen, I mean, what are we seeing from a potential market cap? I know we can't give any indication, but what will it mean for us?
We would expect it to do what guys like NextGen have done. I mean, they started as an explorer. We know those guys. We think we're as good as them.
Yeah.
And Troy was there involved in the company.
Troy, maybe over to you. What's the opportunity here? We're sitting at, call it a 9-10 million market cap with 7.5 in cash. We hit one of these this coming winter. What does it do to our market cap? And given that you saw firsthand in Cameco and NextGen, what are you so excited by it?
I can't, go ahead.
Yeah, and hey, it's simple. I can point people back to the NextGen story, right? Like they made a discovery in 2013. That's a sub $100 million market cap company. Now they're in the billions, right? And off the back of a discovery like Arrow, that's a story in the uranium space. Companies that have success get fully and completely rewarded for that success. And it's a small market. And when the attention starts to pile through the door, the stock responds accordingly.
You know, I think
Yeah,
people
guys.
people shouldn't forget that that these projects we've originated ourselves, and we own 100%. So there's nobody else in here. There's no joint ventures. There's no offtake partners. There's nobody in there with a royalty or something odd sitting in the background. So when we make a major discovery, we own it, so that we're then ready to talk to the Camecos and the Uranos and the Denisons and other guys who might want to farm into our property. So we're doing it the other way around. We're not farming into someone else's. These are ours.
And something that I do want to highlight, I know when we were on the roadshow, you did mention, Andrew, that Cameco and NextGen's exploration budgets, or Cameco, which is a $10 billion market cap, they spent how much last quarter in exploration?
Mike, I think it was 2 million.
I think he's on mute again. Mike, you're on mute again.
They're about 6 million exploration budget and probably about 3 million in ground.
Yeah, so to put things in perspective, everyone, that we hit this anomaly coming up this winter, and we are in the prize zone to be talking to the majors, and through Troy and Daryl and Mike's relationships and Doug's and Kylie's, and Andrew's, obviously, we're in a formidable position. So guys, just on that note, I'm conscious of time and the market open. I just want to say thank you very much. We're really excited by T92. Fantastic projects, all 100% owned, drill ready, permitting done. An amazing team led by Andrew and Troy and Daryl, Mike, Kylie and Doug. It's fantastic and really excited. It's been a lot of work. It's only getting started. We'll be on the market tomorrow and ringing that bell. And for everyone listening, really appreciate your support as shareholders, and anyone new. Hopefully you can join the journey and become the next Cameco and NextGen. So thank you.
You want to do some questions, Nev, or?
No, we've done that. Done the questions. So
Okay,
we'll take it offline.
okay. Thanks, mate.
Bye, guys. Cheers.